Snow event last Thursday in Lebanon, where I'm the pastor, where we have recovery at Lebanon. And so last Thursday we had 1 inch of ice and 2 inches of snow come down in about an hour. And for only the second time in 3 years, we had to not have recovery that night because we just couldn't get people out and we couldn't do anything on that ice. And tonight I'm in short sleeves, and hey, that's a praise. So thanks for having me down. It's always great to be here. If I haven't gotten to meet you before, my name is Will. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. I struggle with codependency, pride, fear, lust, greed, and a lot of other stuff, and I'm really glad He's greater than all that stuff. And I want to say hi to my folks back in Lebanon. We had a special night there tonight. We had a lady there, Ashley, 2-year medallion tonight. And they're watching right now. Ashley, if I'd been there to give it to you, this is what I would have said to you. I love you, and I couldn't be more proud of you. Could not be more proud of you. So we're starting this series this evening called In This Corner, and really what we're doing with the series is we're looking at things that you can focus on, kind of goals or dreams you can have, and a lot of times these different goals and dreams, they look like they're kind of equally powerful. Like you could go after either one and it would turn out okay, but it's not that way at all. I mean, in a fight, sometimes fights are pretty one-sided. Everybody's really excited about this fight we got coming up. Let's put the slide on the screen, see if you can tell me who this is. Right? May 2nd, right? Manny versus Money. Pacquiao, Mayweather, May 2nd for a whole lot of money. And so everybody's excited about that. But, you know, sometimes these fights just don't live up to the hype. We got another fight that just happened. Do y'all remember these ladies? Right? Rhonda and Kat. Kat lasted 14 seconds. 14 seconds. For the big title, that ultimate fighting stuff, 14 seconds. That was it. All the hype, all the money, 14 seconds. Now, we're going to go back a little bit to the 80s. So if you remember the 80s, you might remember a few of these. Let's go to the next one. Who's this? Tyson. I hear it. Michael Spinks, right? Both undefeated. Whoever won was going to combine all the heavyweight titles. 91 seconds. 91 seconds. Of course, that's like 77 seconds longer than that women's fight. You know, I mean, it just wasn't close. The two, that they weren't close. And then sometimes we see this happen in movies. So we're going back to the 80s again. You remember these guys? All right? Yeah, you remember the swordsman and Indiana Jones? And the swordsman goes through this big deal, and Jones shoots him, right? So, moral of the story, don't bring a knife to a gunfight. In fact, don't even bring a big honking sword to a gunfight. If you go home, people say, what'd the preacher say tonight? He said, don't bring a knife to a gunfight. And then we got one more, and I put this in here just for Beebs. Now, you might think these two entities are equally powerful, but one of them hasn't beat the other this decade. And I went to Duke, and I'm real proud of that. Real proud of that. So here's the deal. We're going to have two powers in a corner, in different corners, and we're going to have to choose which one is greater throughout this series. And tonight, the powers that are facing off are cessation versus sobriety. Because sometimes we come in and we say, you know, I just can't even dream any greater than just ceasing, you know, this compulsive behavior. I don't have any greater dream than just not having to use every day, just not feeling like I want to die every day, just being able to actually eat healthy and take care of my body, not feeling like I was responsible for the whole world and for everybody else in it every day. We get so sick into these compulsions. We say, you know, I'd like to go one night without looking at pornography. I'd like to go one. We can talk about everything else, but I'd just like to get through one. And we can't even see that there's something so much greater on the other side. But here's what I want to say to you tonight is that the power that's greater between cessation and sobriety is sobriety 1,000 times. It's not even close. The whole point of ceasing is not just not to use, it's to get sober, because sobriety has a million blessings that you can't even be aware of until you get into them, and that's really what it's all about. So here's what we want you to know tonight. Stopping is only the start. Stopping is only the start. And it's just going to get better and better. It might get harder sometimes, but it's going to get better and better after that. And you know, this is interesting because it's the exact same way with faith. When you come to faith, when you accept Jesus, and I know tonight some of you are like, I don't know about Jesus, but I know I like breakfast for dinner, and that was awesome, wasn't it? Yeah. That was awesome. I don't know about Jesus, I know about eggs for dinner. That's cool. That's cool. We're so glad you're here. Whatever questions you have about him, we want you to ask him. This is the place to do it. But here's the deal. When you come down, when you accept Jesus, and when you say, come into my heart, it's just the greatest thing you can imagine, but it gets better. He's only beginning to teach you. He's only beginning to bless you, and he's got eternity to just keep on blessing you. Just keep on and keep on and keep on blessing you. You know, this is the same way with marriage, right? Or it should be. Like, how different would marriages be? How different would marriages be when we got married, like we were just beginning to try and win our spouse? Because a lot of times what we do is we spend several months, we spend several years trying to win our spouse, and then we get married and we're like, well, I got them, now they have to put up with me. What if we approached marriage, like Vicky might have trouble getting clients, right? If we approached marriage that way. Now I'm trying to win my spouse. Now it only starts getting better. So stopping is only the start. And when you think about this, think about how often we just want to change the behavior, right? We just want to change the behavior, but we don't even know how to begin to get inside ourselves to really change what's on the inside. And that's what sobriety is all about. Really that change that comes on the inside. I realized this early on in my marriage. You know, I realized that I was married, and I thought, well, as a married guy, I'm supposed to keep my wife happy, right? And I mean, I have a great wife. I mean, she just couldn't be more grace-filled. She couldn't be more loving. And, you know, sometimes she'd get frustrated at life. Sometimes she'd get frustrated with me. And I thought, well, I'm supposed to keep her happy. I'm the husband. I'm supposed to keep her happy because I'm a codependent. I thought that. And so I figured out this thing I could do. She has a compulsive behavior. It's called ice cream. Yeah. So she'd get upset, and I'd be like, let's go get ice cream. You know, because I knew by the time we got done having ice cream, I wouldn't have to deal with what she was upset about. And then one day she looks at me and she says, you're just saying that so I won't be mad and you won't have to hear it. And I was like, well, do you want ice cream or not? Just, you know, what do you want? But after that, we had to talk about whatever it was while we got ice cream because we had to talk through it. We had to actually deal with the stuff. And if you think about kind of the analogy of marriage and sobriety, of like when you get married, that's only the start of how great it can be. You know, you get married, especially if you get married young, you know, you get married, you go on the honeymoon, everybody comes back, they're like, oh, I bet you had fun on the honeymoon. Oh, I bet that was great. You get married a while and you realize something about marriage, right? In marriage, it's the marriage, not the sex. That's the real blessing, right? Everybody talks about the sex. Everybody makes movies about the sex, but it's the marriage. That's the real blessing. That's a part of it, but it's a small part compared to the big other blessings that come year after year after year. So when we apply that to life, what that means in life is it's living. That's not just not using. It's really living. It's really learning how to live. It's not just that, hey, you know, I've got my eating disorder under control so I look healthy. Because you know what? You can transfer that OCD that caused you not to eat or that caused you to not eat too much, and you can put that right into being OCD about eating healthy and about working out. And that's good, and you're going to live longer that way, but you still might not deal with the issues that really keep you captive. And I mean, we all know people who can quit using and just become dry drunks. I mean, we know that because they're just miserable people to be around. You know, just mad at the world. They're the people you walk in and you're like, Lord Jesus, there's an empty spot at their table. I need your grace and your blessing. I'm going to go sit at it, but you got to help me. Lord, you got to help me with this. We transfer one idol or addiction for another. And so we might cease to do the destructive behavior we were caught up in, but we're not really sober. We're not really living the life that we were meant for. And I mean, you gotta stop in order to be sober, but that's not all, because I mean, you really can stop a lot of bad behaviors, but just replace them with others. I've been trying something recently. I've been trying to get a little healthier. So I've been doing my best to go on this diet where I don't eat any added sugar and I have all whole wheat. Now, I can't do it perfectly because I don't cook every meal from scratch, but I've been trying to do that. So it's been going pretty well. You know, after about a month now, I'm feeling like I have a little more energy, except occasionally I want to eat my hand. But other than those moments, I feel pretty good. But as soon as I started doing this, I immediately began noticing all the things that I could still eat. So check this out. Chili cheese fries, perfectly fine, no problem. Okay, and let's go to the next one. Fried chicken. Long as that's whole wheat in the gravy and the batter, I'm good. You can eat all the fried chicken you want. Don't you love anything called fried chicken? It's gotta be good, and it's gotta be Southern. And let's go to the next one. All the popcorn you want, all the butter you want on it. You can go for it. And you know, if I have those every night and I don't have sugar or processed wheat, man, I'm not getting any healthier. You know, I'm not getting any healthier at all. So our question is, how do I start? Like, how do I start getting really seriously getting sober? And you got to quit. And then this is where we get into step 3. You know, step 1, I can't, admit I'm powerless. That's quitting, right? That's ceasing. Step 2, he can. I begin to think that there is a greater power. And so, this is, again, quitting. But then step 3 is where we really start getting sober. Step 3 says this: made a decision to turn our life and will over to the care and loving concern of God. This is one of the big things with people. A lot of people will say, well, I asked God to help and he didn't. Well, I gave Jesus a shot and he didn't magically deliver me. Did you turn your life and your will over to him? Or did you just say, Jesus, I want you to work this miracle and magically take this away? Or did you turn your life and your will over, and did you start living his way by his rules? You know what the very first followers of Jesus called themselves? They didn't call themselves Christians. That was a long time later. They said they were followers of the way. When you invite him into your heart, it means following his way. Sobriety isn't just about calling on his name. It's about doing that and then following his way. Made a decision to turn our life and will. This step is really where we start to get sober. And I love what the 12 and 12 says about this. 12 and 12 says with step 3, all we need is a key and the decision to swing the door open. There is only one key, and it is called willingness. This is the way to a faith that works. Willingness. Did you hear what was said when we handed out the medallion tonight? He said he'd do whatever it took. Said he'd do whatever it took. Willingness, it's the key that unlocks sobriety. And then the 12 and 12 goes on to say, once we have placed the key of willingness in the lock and have the door ever so slightly open, we find that we can always open it some more. Like there's always more to go. Isn't that awesome? Like as sober, we celebrated 20 years sobriety tonight. You know what? Blessing's only beginning. You've been following Jesus for 40 years. You know what? Blessing's only beginning. We can still open that door more. Though self-will may slam it shut again, it will always respond the moment we again pick up the key of willingness. It will always respond. And this is good for us because some of us have been through relapses, haven't we? And I just got to imagine in a room this big, some of us got shut in with that snow that came, and those four walls got real close, and we probably did some things we're not proud of when that happened. And here's the great thing. That door will open again. You just got to put the key back in. And here's the great thing about sobriety. Like, we can measure ceasing. It's visible. You can document it. Sobriety, it's invisible. Now, those who know you best can see it, but it's invisible. And when you mess up, when you make a mistake, you don't lose everything that you'd worked for. You put that key back in the lock, and that door's going to open. And however many days, weeks, months you have, that's not as important as what's going on inside your heart and where you are in your walk. So you don't have to feel like, oh, all is lost. Why should I ever try again? But man, willingness is hard, right? It's hard because we've been trying it our own way for a long time. We've been trying it our own way for a long time. One of the things that several of us brought up when we were talking about this topic this week was a certain cartoon that really sums it up. And you may remember this. Let's see if there you go. Y'all remember this? Midvale School for the Gifted. Pull. You keep pushing on that door with your own power, man, it's not going to open. It's just not going to open. You got to read the directions. You got to do it the way they made that door to open. And some people say, well, if sobriety's invisible, when do I know that I'm getting it? We're going to get to that at the end of the message tonight. Here's what I want you to know right now. Here's one of the ways you know you're not getting it, is if you're walking around and you're saying, man, I'm trying my hardest and things aren't going right. You're not getting it yet. You're not getting it. That's your own power. A lot of times we get real upset because we just white-knuckled and we're going our hardest and we're trying everything we can to do what's right, and things just keep going wrong. And then if you think this world's not fair, I just can't believe that's happening. That's not sobriety. That's ceasing. Now we're going to get into what sobriety really is. And check this out. This is Psalm 107. Man, a recovery psalm if there was one. It says, oh, thank God, he's so good. His love never runs out. All you set free by God, tell the world. Right. Your recovery is not just for you. Tell somebody. Yeah. Tell somebody about it. Now, listen to the kind of people who needed recovery back then. Some of you wandered for years in the desert, looking but not finding a good place to live. You ever been there? You ever had no idea what life was really about? You ever just been looking for the next fun thing to do or just trying to make it through the next day? Then in your desperate condition, you called out to God. He got you out in the nick of time. Now there's some more folks. Some of you were locked in a dark cell, cruelly behind bars, a hard sentence, and not a soul to help. I mean, some of us know what it's like to really be locked behind bars. Some of us know those bars we call addiction, we call compulsive behavior, we call despair, we call hopelessness, we call anxiety. And then it says, then you called out to God in your desperate condition. He got you out in the nick of time. So some more people. Some of you were sick because you'd lived a bad life, so miserable you thought you'd be better off dead. Then you called out to God in your desperate condition. He saved you in the nick of time. Are you getting a theme here? Then you called out to God. Some of us been here thinking it's just not worth going on. We're strung out. We're depressed. We're done. Some of you, now this is going to get some of y'all who thought this psalm wasn't talking about you, man, right between the eyes right here. Just bam. Some of you set some big ships to do business in faraway ports. And I got a parentheses about this because this is the Cantrell Revised Edition of the translation. But when a storm arose, you lost your minds and wigged out. Some of you thought you could grab the world by the tail, that you could just order your life and your family and your career, and you could figure it out, and you could win the game, and you could get the job, and you could just have everything going your way. And then guess what? It began to fall apart. And then you called out to God in your desperate condition, and he saved you in the nick of time. It's really wise. The really wise will think this over. It's time for you to appreciate God's great love. So that's what I want to ask you to do tonight, is think it over. Even if you came tonight not believing in God, think about it. Do you have a better idea? Do you have a better plan? Can you find a better way on your own? We had a guy in our discernment group. He had 10 years of ceasing, hadn't used, before he found God. 10 years before he really got on the sobriety train. 10 years of not using, and then he found God, and all these blessings come in. We can white knuckle it for a long time, some of us. We're stubborn. But it's not until we let him that we really find the life we were created for, what we're designed for. You use something for something it wasn't designed for long enough, man, it breaks down, doesn't it? It just breaks down. Here's what I really want to say to you about sobriety tonight. Sobriety is heart surgery, not behavior modification. We might start with behavior modification, but it's heart surgery. It's about getting all the way inside. You see, even in our lives, if we're not using substances, we've got our work lives, and we've got our relationships, we've got what we do and how we relate, but all that's behavior to some extent. And then we've got our heart. What did Jesus say about our heart? He said what defiles isn't whether you wash your hands or not, it's what comes out of your heart in your words and in your relationships. It's about changing who you really are. And Jesus is the great heart surgeon. I mean, he's going to go in there and do surgery. He's going to do it his way. And if you have heart surgery and you go in, it's not always what you want to hear at first. Well, his way, because the heart surgeon is going to say, here's what we're going to do. You're going to go on a diet, and we're going to get you a little healthier. Then we're going to bring you in, and we're going to take this blade, and we're going to saw your sternum in half. And then we're going to crack it open. And then we're going to do all kinds of stuff that you don't ever want to see. And then we're going to put it back together and slap you on the back and send you home. And you would probably say, isn't there another way? Isn't there another way? And the heart surgeon says, nope, this is what we've got to do. So how Jesus does his heart surgery is really summed up in Ezekiel 32. First, it says, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take you out of those countries and bring you back into your land. I'll pour water over you and scrub you clean. That's ceasing. He's forgiven you. He's given you a new start. He's helping you quit long enough to start thinking about his way. That's ceasing. But then the next verse 26, this is sobriety. I'll remove the heart of stone from your body and replace it with a heart that is God-willed. I'll remove the heart of stone and replace it with a heart. That's sobriety. That's faith. So here's the deal. How do you know if you're actually getting more sober or if you're just toughing it out? Is your heart becoming more like Jesus' heart? Is your heart becoming more like Jesus' heart? That's how you know you're starting to get it. You want to know if you're getting sober? Okay. Are you becoming more loving? Not just forcing yourself to be nice and kinder, but actually caring more about people? You're beginning to get sober. Are you becoming less resentful in your heart? Are you becoming more grateful for everything that God's given you? Are you beginning to hate dishonest gain? Like before you'd take anything you could, but now if you have to abuse somebody to get a good business deal, you don't want to do it. I knew a guy who got an offer on his house and he told the guy it's too high. It's not worth that in this market. Take it down 10,000. Boy, that dude loves Jesus. That dude loves Jesus. His heart's becoming like that. When somebody does you wrong, are you beginning less and less, maybe not entirely, but less and less to think about all the bad things you want to happen to that person, and more to feel sorry for them and pray that God will bless them? And you really want that, them to be blessed? If that's happening, then you're getting sober. Your heart's becoming more like Jesus' heart. So here's what I want to say to you. If you want sobriety, if you want faith, if you want life, the life you were designed for, it's here because he's here. Yeah. He's here. And Jesus is his name. And in his way, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. And there's not one of us that can't begin getting sober tonight. There's not one of us that can't get more sober tonight. So if you want that, in just a minute as the band comes up, we're going to have one last song. And will you come up here and will you tell him that? And when you come up here, I want to encourage you, don't say to him, hey, I need you to do this miracle for me. Say, I need you to do this miracle with me. I'm turning it all over. I'm not just asking you to do one thing for me. I'm giving you my life and I'm giving you my will. That's what I'm going to do. So he's here. You're here. If you don't have anything better to do, come to him.